Welcome to the Dirty Verdict Podcast, where your hosts, trial lawyers Kyle Herbert and Bill Ogden, and mediator Peter Taaffe talk with interesting lawyers and break down recent legal news in detail. Here's Kyle, Bill, and Peter.
All right, welcome back to another edition of the Dirty Verdict Podcast. I am full-time mediator Peter Taaffe.
I am full-time Kyle Herbert.
And we have a special guest today with us, Amanda Orr.
Hi, Amanda Orr.
Amanda, you're a full-time what?
I do public relations for lawyers, law firms, and their clients, which includes engagement of media and suppression of media as needed.
Suppression
of media.
Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome.
That's a new term for me. That's good. So Amanda, where can people find you if they're lawyers or others that are interested in assistance with PR? What's your website?
orstrategygroup.com or Amanda at orstrategygroup.com.
All right. And so by PR, we're going to get into this later, but we're on the topic. So PR, like what kind of stuff do you do? Because I don't think people realize that when you read a story on the news, that there was probably some background going on there.
There's definitely background on it. So I was a journalist for 20 years at places like Houston Chronicle, Reuters, and Dateline. And so I know what makes journalists' jobs easier, and I know what they want. And so, for instance, I had a client last week, plaintiff's attorney, and he wants to own one particular suburb of Houston. He wants that practice to be largely based in this particular suburb. So I secured a 5-part series in the local newspaper in that suburb, which is served to, 165,000 residents, which clearly, that's free media. He's paying me, but it's much cheaper than taking out ads, and it's much more credible.
That's how Peter became the king of Atascocita.
True.
No, I've been there several football games. They've got a wonderful stadium up there.
God's country.
But it's also helpful, I assume, like whatever information is being published is helpful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a win-win. All right, Amanda, well, feel free to chime in. You're not a lawyer, right?
No, I don't know.
You do.
A lot.
You do, and you're a great resource because hopefully there are a few non-lawyers that listen and that maybe want to hear the perspective of someone who's not a lawyer and jaded like Kyle and I are.
Real quick, do you work mostly with lawyers?
I do.
Are you allowed to tell us, like, the famous people on your client list, or is that, like, secret?
I try not to. There are NDAs that I sign, so I try not to. But there are some, that I can discuss. But really all I want is Kyle Herbert and Peter Taaffe and Bill Ogden to be my clients.
You will go broke extremely quickly. As you know, the budget for the Dirty Verdict is extremely small, mostly because Peter won't let us do anything fun.
After that, our guest, the state representative Mano Diala, is the second solicitor we have. That you didn't even ask, but I self-approved wigs.
Yes,
like the good ones,
the nice ones,
Yeah.
These are real human hair.
Yeah,
Powdered wigs.
Yeah. I didn't get the human hair, but horse hair is supposed to be excellent.
Oh, is that right?
Sounds good. It's like good horses. Okay, so this is the session where we talk about the news, and this summer has continued to provide excellent legal news stories. So let's start with a quick update. Right-wing or conservative pundit, online pundit, Witzke, Lauren Witzke.
Okay.
That's her name. We reported on this before. She posted something alluding to the fact that a same-sex couple who had adopted a child.
Oh, right.
Was only doing so they could actually
have a kid.
Yeah. And
what a dirtbag thing to do.
Yes, and so she and her lawyers at the Busby law firm obviously agreed, so they sued her. She's based in Delaware. They filed in state court here in Houston. Originally, the judge, show favorite Tanya Garrison, had dismissed the case on jurisdictional grounds, personal jurisdictional grounds. So we thought that was the end of that.
Just for point of clarification, Busby sues Witzke in Houston.
Yes.
Witzke's the defendant.
Right.
Witzke says, dismiss this case, no jurisdiction, no contact with Houston, Texas, even though I guess that's where the gay couple lives.
Yes.
And now the update is?
Well, as Bill told us, and Bill is not here, of course, he's in an excused absence doing parent night at his son's school. But Bill said that, the law he felt like was behind on personal jurisdiction as it relates to internet publishing. But in any event, so Judge Garrison granted the motion to dismiss, saying the lady wasn't subject to personal jurisdiction. And
Busby asks for a rehearing.
Busby asked for a rehearing, basically says, I was supposed to get a deposition of her. I never got that. I want some other discovery. Judge Garrison, being the fair and reasoned judge that she is, was open to reconsidering her opinion, and she did, and said, I'll set it aside and I will let you conduct some discovery on that and then come back and see me. So that case is not yet over. Of course, Mr. Busby, past guest, announced recently that he is running for Houston City Council in District G.
District G.
Where's District G?
That goes from River Oaks, basically in the eastern edge, all the way to the Barker Reservoir.
Yeah, south of I-10.
Basically, where our guest state representative's district is included in that city council district. So it'll be interesting.
He's run for office before.
Yes, he ran for mayor. And what year was that?
It was 2019. Yeah, so 4 years ago.
How soon you forget?
I mean, I can't believe it was 4 years ago, honestly. But I'm totally with Tony on this, and I look forward to hearing about the deposition of this woman. And actually, I think her name is...
Oh, you're talking about on the Witzke.
Yeah, I think her name is actually pronounced Lauren Witzke.
Witzke. Okay, sorry.
But, I mean,
Lauren.
How old is the child? Do you know?
We say in the legal stuff, everyone is real careful about children. You file under a
alias.
Yes, Jane Doe or TM or whatever their initials are, and probably in the it's a lot of blurring of pictures. So we don't know, but I think the impression was it was a young child.
Well, we don't want to disparage her. She's a young, educated, she went to Delaware Technical Community College at Goldie Beacom, which...
you're just talking about the kid, the little...
No, I'm talking about the Miss Witzke.
Is she a journalist?
No.
How do you define journalist?
She's a TV host for True News, TRUNEWS.
So that's one of those things that I found, it's an interesting question. What is a journalist? I mean, the lines are definitely being blurred now because anybody can be a citizen journalist, and we do need citizen journalists. But
are we journalists? Are we journalists?
No.
I think y'all are...
We're barely adults and only lawyers because the state bar says so.
Anyway, I think that, one of the things that separates journalists from hacks is definitely a sense of, is this going to get me sued? And am I double checking the facts? And do I have corroboration on this? And certainly she didn't do anything like that, because one of the first rules of journalism, anybody knows, you don't talk about children in journalism. It's a very, very high bar that you have to pass if you're going to talk about a child. And even though this child probably wasn't named on her show, it's still one of those things that any decent show, they're not going to mention that just because there's no corroboration. What proof do you have that these people are doing that? Never mind the fact that, maybe she disagrees with a lifestyle. I think that's a misnomer, but she can have her own opinions. But when you bring a child into it, you're inviting a lawsuit. So I'm totally with Tony on this.
Miss Witzke seems amazing to me.
Kyle's on his phone.
She's a recent convert to the Russian Orthodox Church, in part because she identifies with Putin's Christian values as opposed to Joe Biden. Also,
that's according to her, or is that someone saying that?
That's her quote.
Okay.
Well, her quote, this is off of Wikipedia, and if you can't trust Wikipedia,
who can you trust?
And most importantly, something that she and I agree on, she's a flat earther. Some people think all these globes are just accurate. I mean, I think it's a cabal of globe enthusiasts. The globe industry has cornered the market.
So I'm pro globe. Is that you'd say I'm
to be fair, I'm pro Mercator projection.
Okay.
because I feel like it most appropriately represents Greenland. But that's me, right? That's my jam.
But it does explain where all the socks go that you're missing in your dryer.
Mm-hmm.
They go off the end of the earth.
That's right.
I got
The earth is flat, and cats are constantly knocking off important things
Yeah.
off the edge of the planet.
Yeah.
Planet.
Okay, so we'll follow that story.
And Miss Witzke, if you want to be on,
We want you on.
No, well, I wouldn't advise her if I were a lawyer because that would probably help on. Well, I think jurisdiction is already done because there were some arguments that they said, well, after Judge Garrison initially ruled, Miss Witzke said, "I'm getting my attorney's fees against Busby," and so at least that was one thing he said. Oh well, now she's availing herself of this.
well, I would say she would sign an affidavit and an order as judge of Flat Earth World that by simply appearing on the dirty verdict, she's not availed herself of this jurisdiction.
Sure,
She can also appear remotely.
and we would also we would go to Delaware.
And to the extent we
On
don't
coach.
make
On
use
coach.
of geosynchronous satellites to beam these images and sounds across the globe, I would also submit that Ms. Witzke should come on this show just to disprove that basic tenet of science.
I mean, your brain is genius level. I think, and we could get Tony to do this. We actually just have the trial here. Do the depo here on the show.
You think they'd submit to binding Taaffe mediation arbitration, and I could be one of the arbitrators?
That there's a lot of moving parts there, so but I would say probably no. I think we've covered that one pretty good.
Fine.
Um,
If you want to move on, Peter, that's fine.
yeah, I was gonna say
I'll have to set up a kangaroo court.
we have
Sorry.
Amanda really wanted to be alerted to something.
Time to take
Did we say
pills,
something?
Amanda.
Did we say something wrong?
Take your pill.
All right, next one. This one's out there in the. I like to try to find ones that are kind of obscure but interesting. But this one, if you Google Texas lawsuit, comes up 10 times. Texas woman awarded $1.2 billion after ex-boyfriend put intimate photos in public Dropbox. The woman's ex-boyfriend allegedly shared what court documents call visually intimate material of her online and in emails to her family, friends, and colleagues. So one of the lawyers was Brad Gildy, who obviously I don't know personally. I've heard of him quite a bit. And Kyle, maybe there's a shot he could come on.
Brad's a friend of the show. He's been invited on. I think he'd like to be on. It's just a matter of working out the scheduling. I'd love to. I know just a little bit about this case, but I would probably rather postpone a deep discussion about it until he can come on.
Okay.
Because I think it's fascinating stuff. It's really, if you think about it, a interesting area of the law. Our cell phones are now so ubiquitous to everything we do, and the idea of dirtbags putting photos of their jilted exes in compromising positions is pretty awesome. It's a really developing area of the law that I'm super interested in.
It sounds like a groundbreaking verdict.
Yeah.
I'm guessing this guy probably didn't have a lawyer, and obviously I seriously doubt he has $1.2 billion or maybe even $1.2.
I mean, my expectation is there's almost certainly no coverage and no realistic chance of recovering a significant, any amount of that money. But even still,
And so let me say this: plaintiff lawyers like yourself get castigated quite a bit for just being it for the money and all that.
Sure.
But these guys spend a lot of time and clearly probably assuming they're never going to see a dime on this, but wanting to make that guy's life as miserable as possible.
Sometimes you take on a client or see a case through, and quite often, without regard for whether or not you're going to make any money, because in a lot of cases, it's just the right thing to do, right? You prove the point, you end the behavior, you make this person who was clearly wronged feel vindicated, and, that's important.
Well, and then you set precedent, too. In the future, everybody knows they should go to you.
Or just not do that horrible thing.
That would be nice. Here's one takeaway from the story, that Texas is one of 48 states, in addition to D.C., Puerto Rico, and Guam, where non-consensual pornography is illegal, which leads me to the question of
Oklahoma?
Which two states?
What's going on in Oklahoma? It's got to be Oklahoma, right? Let me guess. Don't tell us. West Virginia, and Oklahoma.
Yeah. What are your homework between now and the next show is to find out which 2 states non-consensual pornography is actually legal.
Josh, which are the 2 states we're not allowed to travel to?
Well, we're gonna have to go to Alabama here in a couple weeks, so hopefully that's not one.
Have y'all been watching Bama Rush?
Oh, yeah.
On
Awesome.
TikTok?
Awesome.
Yeah, that's
TikTok
great-
and the
great
documentary on HBO.
I put on
No, I
Facebook
didn't know.
today, there's a video of the girls from Russia UT, like thousands of them streaming down the main drag. And my caption I put was, cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war, because, I mean, these girls are out for blood to get those bids. And
I live
love
for
it.
that. Love it.
My son's girlfriend was a rush captain for her sorority. And so we saw her Sunday after everything was done, and she was very tired, but she was very happy.
It's an exciting time for all these young ladies.
Yeah. Okay. This is another lawsuit. Passenger who witnessed San Antonio airport engine suicide files lawsuit. Okay. So you remember the story. We didn't talk about it, but it was reported. There was a ground crew person at the airport, that helps with luggage or whatever, got sucked into an engine while the plane was sitting there, and he died.
Was it a suicide?
It was later determined to be a suicide.
Look, this is personal advice. If you are suffering from mental illness, seek help. If you've decided to kill yourself, there are other ways than being sucked into a ramjet engine that will leave your family in a better place that you should consider.
But that also brings me to the thought, my knee-jerk reaction is, how do they know it's a suicide? I mean, that sounds awfully convenient.
It was the Bexar County Medical Examiner's Office ruled his death a suicide.
I mean, are they close with the insurance agency there? Like, what are their connections?
Well, I mean, I don't know why they would be biased to find that. I mean, unless there was some negligence, but his employer, of course, would be protected under, there'd be death case, so there'd be a gross negligence.
To be honest, my guess is there are probably 3 or 4 obvious things you shouldn't do to avoid getting sucked into an engine. And my assumption is there must be some ancillary personal evidence combined with the fact that he walked into an airplane engine.
Yeah. So here are some of the evidence reported by the My San Antonio, their news paper.
Owned by Hearst, the same company that owns Houston Chronicle.
There you go.
You said you brought nothing to the table.
I do.
No, you bring a lot.
Useless knowledge.
So Renner, the deceased, tried handing his supervisor a suicide note before the incident.
Okay.
He had mental health struggles, very visible, before he committed suicide, allegedly. Social media posts, statements by other crew, statements by family members. His brother said that he had been, quote unquote, clean for at least 5 months prior, was in therapy, was taking medication, that he had struggled with mental health issues in the past, and the incident was, quote unquote, not the first time he had tried something like this. So I guess there's a whole lot of evidence, and the different medical examiners do different levels.
So it's not an issue that's really up in the air.
So what precedent is there for someone viewing a suicide to sue an organization? I guess they could say you were negligent in keeping him employed?
Yes, that is what the allegation is. The question would be what duty they have to her, a passenger in the plane. And 2, I would think if
There's
you got...
no negligent infliction of emotional distress.
Correct. There's a famous
Otherwise,
case
every child would sue their parent right around age 13.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty of intentional infliction too. Negligent for sure.
Well, there is a claim for intentional infliction of emotional distress, but no claim for negligent.
But I'm assuming that the attorney for the passenger is going to try to prove that the company knew that this guy, had tried suicide.
But knowledge is still not an intentional act. I mean, we knew he was crazy. An intentional act is we said, hey, what would really mess this lady up? So if you walked into that jet engine over there, which is true, it would mess a person up. But
so there's a lot of, in my view, there's a lot of problems with that case. But
who filed it? Anybody we know?
No, it was. I'll have to look.
Theory for sure.
So yeah, it was against his employer. That was out there. I thought that was an interesting. I mean, people got to take the shot. The next story I want to talk about, A.J. Armstrong. We had Kelly Johnson, the judge presiding over that case.
Yep.
Of course, she came to our show fresh from that trial, and was kind enough to spend quite a bit of time with us. Of course, we couldn't ask her anything about that. I mean, we weren't going to. We did not discuss. We didn't say a word about it. Like, in fact, I wasn't even sure I didn't even know she was on it until after she left. I just knew there was a trial going on that we didn't need to ask about. But it turned out it was this one. And so lawsuit's been filed against the city of Houston, separate and apart. He was convicted, third trial, but was it right before he was convicted?
Right before the conviction.
He filed a civil lawsuit against the city of Houston with Randall. I've read his name 9 million times, but I can't pronounce it. Callanan. He files a ton of civil rights type cases. I think he's one of the premier guys with knowledge of that. But Callanan. He filed a lawsuit. I think the allegation is that there was some DNA evidence. His father's blood was found on his shirt, but it was not found until like 7 years after the incident. So there's a question about whether that was planted evidence.
So I have a little bit of inside baseball here. I spoke to some people that spoke to some jurors. So I got this secondhand. I've invited these jurors to come on the show to chat. I don't know that they will. They're civilians that probably don't want a lot of press. And I forwarded the question about the DNA blood evidence. And the folks that I heard from said that played no role, that they were not interested in that at all, but that there was a ton of evidence. And by the way, I did not watch the trial. I know just as much as anybody else that could read the press that there was a lot of evidence between the accused's cell phone and the activity in the home security system that strongly suggested that he was the only person in the vicinity that could have committed the act. And then there was some other discussion, and I don't know the details about it, about him wanting to destroy the house or trying to destroy the house by fire.
Right.
That suggested, like, why would that be an issue? And like, I really don't want to talk out of class and suggest a bunch of dumb stuff. Bearing in mind, I have only tiny pieces of the puzzle. But I did pose that direct question, like, did you guys make a big deal about this DNA blood evidence? And they were like, well, I didn't remember it. Like, no big deal at all. Very, very little interest in it. But fascinating case, right?
I remember one of the things that stuck out to me in reading about the case, and actually this is the third time it went to trial because the first two ended in mistrial, also in Kelly Johnson's court. But one of the things that stuck out to me is they used some sort of tracking to figure out when his phone was active versus not. So that may be what you're talking about, because they thought maybe, he was using ambient lighting to find his way to his parents' room, something like that. I mean, the Armstrongs were such a couple that was really well known in Houston. They were on a lot of local shows. They did a lot of philanthropy. And on the other side, you've got Rick DeToto, who's one of the best criminal defense lawyers in Houston. So if the guy was going to get off, it was going to be with Rick. So it's interesting that they've filed this.
I find it super interesting that there were two mistrials, and then this jury was not out long at all.
That's right.
Right? And to be honest, the jurors that I got information from, not directly, so if you're out there trying to fish for information about jury tampering, I couldn't even tell you the names of the people. It's through an intermediary. But they said that it was as close to a slam dunk as you could imagine in a case. So I'm terribly curious the difference between jury 1, jury 2, and jury 3, and the evidence that came in these 3 different trials. Just goes to show you, in part, different juries get different verdicts and different sets. I mean, it can really, it's a radical departure, mistrial to life in prison.
I think it was 10 hours that they were out, which is very quick when it comes to a life sentence. It's very quick.
I mean, one day's work.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's my pitch. When I mediate, is that
You don't have any idea.
well, the biggest wild card in the case is who is on your jury, and you won't know that until that day, which is months away, and after a lot of
going on in those people's heads.
yeah, that's why lawyers drink a lot.
Anybody that's done this should honestly say, I have won some that I should have lost, and lost some that I should have won. And typically when juries tell you why you won or why you lost, I mean, half the time you're like, neither side thought that was that important.
Yeah, jury behavior is so fascinating. I know we need to move on, but did y'all ever watch that show Bull?
No.
Where it was like based on Dr. Phil, and he was like the jury guy. Yeah, it's really fascinating watching juries and their behavior.
My kids are all telling me to watch Suits.
Oh, yeah.
And I tried to start it, and I don't know. Maybe it's like real, like it's just a lawyer show. So if you're a lawyer, you're like, it's hard to, when you
Take
know
it
it's just,
seriously.
it's just not accurate or close, but they're into it.
Yeah, I mean, I have the same interest in Suits as I do in the podcast version of the YouTube version of this podcast. Is the only thing less. I mean, there's nothing less appealing to me than having my entertainment be lawyers.
You should see how good Josh makes you look though on the YouTube.
Yeah.
Yes.
I could be totally honest. I have never ever listened to the podcast, and I've never watched a YouTube video of the podcast.
That's the whole reason I became a fan, was listening to y'all are hilarious. Honestly, y'all are funny. It reminds me of that podcast Smartless with like Jason Bateman and
someone else said
Arnett.
that to me.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Kyle, I was sold that people watch it because they thought they heard Brad Pitt was on with me.
Yeah.
And,
Peter, I'm not going to argue with you there.
yeah. So, like I said, Josh is good. Chaos Theory.
Brad Pitt's on the show. My guess is who's playing me, because I don't know if Jamie Farr or Danny DeVito are still in business, but if they are, you've got an open invitation to portray Kyle Herbert. Actually, I'm a dead ringer for Sean Astin from The Hobbit.
Is he still with us?
Yes, he's like a young guy.
Like my age.
Lord of the Rings.
Both Corey Feldman and Corey Haim.
Oh, right. One of them died. Yeah. Not Kyle.
Or maybe both. All right. We diverge.
I want to be played by Armie Hammer.
Talk to Kent Schaefer about that.
Throw back to Ken Schaefer.
We talked. Kent Schaefer has very nice things to say about. He really does, Mr. Hammer. In Tarrant County lawsuit against Six Flags, man alleges negligence in roller coaster fire. This is interesting to me. This gentleman was at Six Flags. He was on the Mr. Freeze, which is a roller coaster.
How ironic that Mr. Freeze caught fire.
He's from Venice, California. He was in Arlington, Texas, where Six Flags is, to attend a funeral, and then did a little post-funeral visit to Six Flags.
As you do.
As one does.
Yeah.
And wanted to ride Mr. Freeze to help soothe the pain from that funeral. But he was as it went through a tunnel, it broke down and there was some engine fire. So he's stuck in the tunnel with smoke, and it took an employee at least 10 minutes to free the passengers from the seats. And they got the fire out before the police or the fire department got there. So I guess it is for exposure to smoke, which I guess,
I mean, it could be that. I would not want to be in a metal tube filled with smoke for 10 minutes.
I mean, that sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
he seeks damages of over $1 million.
Well, he's got to put that in the pleading.
And then, yeah, right. That is interesting, Kyle. I think we've talked about this before. And this is for you too, Amanda, because the journalists always go, what are they asking for? What are they seeking?
Right, because we like the big numbers.
Yeah,
But it's silly.
you can put any number, in there.
And
that
sometimes
you
you
want.
require,
Well, you are required under Rule 47.
for jurisdictional purposes, to put a number in there.
I'm curious about the attorney that took this case. I mean, some people would say just be grateful you're alive. I guess that's the layperson, but I guess an attorney.
Gratefully you're alive. You paid good money for an awesome roller coaster ride, and instead you sat in what you probably thought was your coffin
That's
filled with
true.
smoke while onlookers ate their cotton candy and watched you nearly be roasted to death. Thanks a lot, Six Flags.
You would be a great attorney, Kyle.
Tell that to the state bar.
Yeah. Okay, so let me do a counter to that.
Was anybody physically injured?
Like
Other than
like
smoke
arms? Not according to this story. But let's play this out. Those things are very dangerous.
Sure.
And, maybe this happens one time, and fortunately smoke inhalation, which is, can be significant, but next time it could be a death or multiple deaths.
Yeah.
If this thing's, so is it a good thing for the world for this lawsuit to be filed? If only it makes sure Six Flags takes a good hard look at their training and maintenance and operations to make sure they're doing it right.
There was a case a couple years ago in Kansas, and I don't mean to make light of it because it is a terrible tragedy, but it's to your point. There was a water park, and I think it was run by like the same, I don't want to even say the name of the company because I might be wrong, and they had this like 100-foot water slide or something, and kid goes down it, and it had only been open a few months, and they hadn't tested it for all appropriate weights because, you get a certain amount of lift. And a young man was major head trauma, and he died, and most of his head...
It's decapitated, right?
He was decapitated.
Mm.
Most of his head was
Right.
removed. And as it turned out, his father had been a member of the Kansas legislature who had voted for tort reform, had voted for caps on mental anguish damages, and I believe had also participated in the deregulation of parks and carnivals.
Mm.
And so, there's two ways to regulate behavior in the public sphere. One is you make rules. The other one is you make no rules, but you allow attorneys to give incredibly stern monetary warnings for terrible behavior.
Meaning jury verdicts.
Jury verdicts, because one of the two should happen. And I think it's, well, who knows? I don't know the facts of this case. It's at Six Flags. I've been on plenty of rides, mostly at the Texas State Fair in Dallas after an OU game, thinking, I don't know, this kind of seems safe-ish.
And let's be clear, you weren't really thinking.
No. My state may have been slightly altered, but that was years ago. Now I put my kids in those rides while I'm totally sober.
But yeah, no, that to your point. I mean, there's a reason the saying is regulations are written in blood, because usually something terrible happens like that. So that's a great point. I totally agree with the lawsuit now. Thank you.
I mean, I think it's fair to say that if you go to a small carnival on the side of the road and you get in the zipper, don't count on a lawsuit working out for you.
Right.
So when I was a kid, I was probably 12 or 13. You know that ride that used to be, it's just like a giant swing,
Oh yeah.
right? They've got like 50
love that.
seats. You sit in it, they turn around, it spins. Centrifugal force lifts you out of the air. I was on one of those, I want to say on the way, a road trip to Louisiana. I don't know where my parents were. I think I was with some other kid's family. And they put us on this thing, and it goes up, and then it's supposed to gently slow down to a stop. Well, I'm on the thing, and they're trying to slow it down, and it gets down to it's going, relatively slow, and then some guy pulls the brake, and all of the seats keep going, and then they spread out, and then they go boom, and they slam back into the center of the thing. And my seat just happened to be on the outside-ish ring, and so it hit the center, and I got out completely unscathed. There were kids, kid with a broken arm,
Yeah.
kid with a bleeding face, and the family I was with, they were like, okay, let's go. Don't tell your family about this. Let's get out of here.
Well, how do they? your group didn't have the broken arm person.
No, there was me and maybe my brother and another kid, and we were fine. But like, mayhem, like blood, and like all these people were crying, and we were like, let's get out of here.
Yeah, and Kyle's like, I want to take a look at this. Where are their injuries?
Yeah, well, find out.
Okay, so yeah, be careful on those. Well, you just don't have a lawsuit, or you don't have a collection. You can sue someone. Of course, they're already moved on to Lake Charles by that point.
If you recover, you're going to get paid in like giant stuffed animals or carnival tickets.
Yeah.
Like how many beers in a wax cup can I get for 7 tickets?
Circus peanuts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it 7? You have to find the right one.
Some people say it's a myth, but there is a beer stand at the state fair, 5 tickets for a beer.
I think I know the one you're talking about.
It's in the wine pavilion.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm talking about. Snuck. Yeah, so I'll show you sometime.
Draw class.
The next one, okay, if Bill were here, I kind of structured this thinking Bill was going to be here.
Should we save it for Bill?
No, we're going to talk about it because it's newsworthy. And it'll get stale here in a little bit. And Bill, so of course, I don't start any story I start with. Bill then loops it into every story.
I was going to say before you begin, I wholly concur. If there's an expert on the dirty verdict on this topic, it's almost certainly Bill.
Ooh, I want to know what this is.
I'm not sure if Kyle just slandered Bill or praised him for his legal acumen.
He's slander proof.
But the we'll bring him when he comes back.
Too late. He can't defend himself.
We'll let him come on. Okay, this is the lawsuit that was filed by Pornhub, Brazzers, Xvideos, and other operators of adult entertainment websites.
I like that you struggle to pronounce it correctly.
Right. The act is really good, Peter.
Is it Brazzers?
Kyle?
I was
Pornhub?
Brazers. Oh, I knew Pornhub.
Pornhub. It's pronounced. Yogging the James Island.
Yeah. They're part of the Free Speech Coalition.
Yeah, they are.
And they represent hundreds of businesses and individuals involved in the production, distribution, sale, presentation of constitutionally protected adult content.
What are they called?
The Free Speech Coalition. So it's constitutionally
looking for counsel.
You need
constitutionally protected adult content, because we know in early days of this country they were very worried about protecting adult content.
Yeah.
Yes. Which I mean, was that like? They probably were like
Abigail Adams used to throw the stink leg. A lot of
you have a right to show their ankle if they want to.
I thought he was going to say something else.
I don't approve of it, but if they want to show an ankle, go for it.
The men's. If you just think about how much our revolution owes to tariffs imposed on men's hosiery, and then you think we're not in to a little bit of leg, we're into it. We're Americans.
That's a good point. Men back then, formal, they would wear like hosiery and then like high heels.
Yeah.
People think that the French invented the sans culottes. Au contraire, mon frère. Welcome to America. États-Unis. La Révolution.
I think it's États-Unis.
So there's a state bill.
États-Unis.
En français.
We had a very distinguished member of the state legislature on.
We didn't ask him about this.
No, and we were not going to ask him about this.
Peter.
But there's a House bill that goes into effect September 1. When it does, it will require any commercial entity providing adult content to utilize what the law says are reasonable age verification methods, which I believe is they've got to transmit one of the following: digital identification, I don't know what that is, government issued identification, or public or private transactional data, which would include your mortgage or pay stub.
So after September 1st, if you want to look at porn in Texas, you have to give them your driver's license.
You got to do something.
Let me ask a question. We know that Ted Cruz is a fan of pornography. He's been caught liking things and forwarding.
You're trying to get sued at this point.
My question is, does the Texas law apply
to Ted Cruz
when Ted is in Cancun or D.C.? He's a Texas resident. He has substantial contacts with the state. We know that he's a connoisseur. My question is, how far does the Texas law reach? I know Ted has a driver's license. I know that Ted supports voter ID. Is it really onerous to require Ted to provide some sort of identification in the interest of protecting children to enjoy a little bit of porn.
Kyle, just so anyone listening would not think you just made this up out of whole cloth, is there some reason for you to believe that happened?
Absolutely. Google Ted Cruz porn, and at 100, he liked a video and had tweeted to his Twitter account that he had liked it, I believe.
That was an accident, Kyle.
I'm not saying it wasn't an accident. I don't think he's intentionally sharing his porn tastes.
What was it? Do you remember what the official response was? That was not
That
like
is-
someone stole his.
Yeah, there's
something?
someone had taken over his account,
Yes.
some staffer.
Yes.
Because everybody knows if you're going to hand your cell phone off to someone to surf for porn, that just happens all the time.
This just recently.
And that might be a safeguard if you use your ID to.
Okay, listen. So I also run social media for a lot of attorneys, and so they're on my account. Sometimes when I want to like something, like the Delta Zetas of UT, so I can watch their rush videos.
You're logged into the wrong thing.
Ooh,
Right.
that's
It's
dangerous.
accidental, right? But you have to go in and actually select the checkbox and unselect your law firms and make sure. So I've never done that, thank God. And fortunately, my tastes are pretty G-rated.
You're saying you would like the dance videos for the Rush,
Yes, me.
but you don't want to do that on behalf of a 70-year-old male lawyer because you think that maybe that would be a little.
It would be untoward, but also, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, they make you choose who you're liking that for, what page you're liking that for. So whoever this person was that did it on behalf of Ted Cruz was just being lazy.
He did get. I saw
This person, not Ted Cruz, was being lazy. I buy it 100%.
Listen, I know how to spin just as well as you do.
he did just this video or this picture of a shark allegedly like in the waters in a reservoir that's been going around for 10 years. He just posted that, reposted because someone said, "Oh, look at LA from this tropical storm. They just had there's sharks in the reservoirs." He posted it, and of course, got blown up on it. And then, but he owned that one. He said, sorry, I got fooled.
Okay.
Everyone stay safe. So sometimes, maybe you should give him some legitimacy.
Yeah, Kyle.
I mean, he's owned it.
I'm not saying that Ted Cruz has a pornography problem. In fact, I'm saying quite the opposite. If people needed photographic ID to use Ted Cruz's porn accounts, it would reduce the likelihood of a staffer making a mistake
That's so true.
and enjoying porn while logged into Ted Cruz's Twitter. That is a completely legitimate and I think compelling argument.
Could happen.
In fact, I find it more compelling than the we have to protect kids from porn and everything, just not firearms.
But don't you find it invasive?
Not in the case of Ted. I think the government should be monitoring whatever Ted's doing on the internet.
No, I think the
And
argument.
it's not for my sake, it's for Heidi's.
The argument, I'm sure the Free Speech Coalition and their members would say is, wait, this was passed by an overwhelmingly Republican, conservative, anti-big government in your business.
That's the thing about small government. The party of small government needs to make sure what you're doing with your hands and your private parts almost all the time.
Yeah.
That's why we have our hands on the table right now.
Right. So that would be the argument is that, wait, I thought you guys loved Reagan, and Reagan said, get the
Or
government
everything.
out of our life. Yeah. Get the government out of our life. But yet all of a sudden you want people to, this would strike a lot of people as very
Let me ask you a
government
question.
intrusive.
Let me ask a civics question. If I want to Google, or let's say I'm a child, I'm just kidding, I'm not going to go there. Let's say I want to Google Melania Trump nude as a civics exercise in free speech.
Right.
Would the Texas law prevent me from seeing the former First Lady of the United States of America in flagrante delicto unless I provide a photo ID?
No, that's a good question.
I'm
That
trying to be a
is.
patriotic American.
And these are, it's Quinn Emanuel is the law firm that filed the lawsuit, and it's against technically the Attorney General for the state of Texas, who is not, as it stands, Ken Paxton. But it is Colmenero is the last name. So that's actually the defendant. So someone will be defending that case.
In all seriousness, I give I give that lawsuit a 100% chance of success, and there is no way that law is constitutional.
I would be curious because Texas, other states are equally conservative to Texas. Has it been passed in other states, and what's been the rulings on that? I don't.
It's just so ridiculous.
I don't follow that area of law. That's why we miss Bill, because you can slander him about his personal behaviors, but as far as this type of law, Bill is really, really, and his firm are great on it.
Yeah, Bill, we need you back
from that. So Bill, come on back. Speaking of Ken Paxton, other people, we're going to talk a lot about the facts of that case and follow it. And Kyle has got a live feed set up on the floor. He's going to start camping out when like August 31st or so is when you camp out.
Probably day after tomorrow.
Yeah, we're going to take a detour, go watch the football game, and then get back in line. But we're going to report some serious stuff. Report from this latest data dump that the prosecution...
6% of Americans look at pornography on their phone.
On their phone?
According to, what, Kyle Herbert or...
According to Thomson Reuters.
Oh, okay.
They are pretty credible.
And that's got to be self-reported, I assume, right?
I mean...
Yeah, and you've got to...
amazing because who's ever going to admit that?
Right, well, and self-reported is always lower than the reality.
Anyways, I'm not touching anybody's phone.
Kyle's very interested in this subject. But Bill, we're going to wait and have a more reasoned legal discussion when Bill comes back on that. And there'll be an answer.
Peter's saying, stop being silly. We need Bill back.
If you're waiting for Bill to keep this group from being silly, I got to tell you, it's going to be a long wait, my friend.
Back to the Paxton. We've got to talk about it every week, or else.
What's the update? What's been going on in Paxton land?
There's a whole document dump from the because of course the defense said no evidence, basically kind of motion of these things. So the prosecution said, here's all the evidence, and it's tons of pages, and it's posted online. Well, we can talk about it, fake Uber account and all those kinds of things.
Right, yeah. So the story on that, and to be succinct, is
Dave P.,
the Ron Mexico of Ken Paxton.
What was Lane Kiffin's alleged fake name?
Johnny Freshwater?
Yeah.
Something Freshwater?
Yeah, I mean, Dave P. is a really weak fake name.
Yeah.
Do better. That's all in my link.
On the checks?
I don't know.
Dennison? Anyway. Yeah, so the story here is that Paxton was operating a fake Uber account so he could travel back and forth to see his mistress without anybody being able to track his Uber. Somehow the whiz-bang investigators at the legislature figured out that he had this fake Uber account and tracked all his trips to Arby's and Burger King and all the addresses for the lady he was dating. It's just terribly embarrassing.
This was kind of interesting. I read an interview or a summary. There's some statements from a young man who was his personal aide. Mm-hmm. Amanda knows from being in politics, some of the high-level guys will have a young person, usually if the guy's
we call them interns, Peter.
Yeah, no, but you'll have a back person or, who carries all your stuff and
guy that drops the ring.
Yeah. So his guy was interviewed. And
he said, I do not have Ted Cruz's cell phone on me.
Yeah. But one of the things he said is he was at Barton Creek Resort with his dad, and he's at the elevator, and Ken Paxton comes off the elevator with this
lady.
I don't know if she's young or old or how old. But
I call everyone young lady.
I think she's age appropriate, which is commendable, honestly.
Sure. I mean, if you're going to have an affair with someone,
age appropriate.
Yeah. Okay. That's Amanda stepping out there on the on the line.
I would wink.
I could do PR for
which was wink at this comment, but people think I'm making fun of.
I thought it was interesting because I don't know where they met to have the
work. Always work.
No, I'm talking about where the people that are set the rules for the impeachment. They met at some resort, according to our
got to be
past.
We know it's Barton Creek.
That would make sense. Yeah. I mean, that's a very nice resort. It's close. You don't want to go way out.
Yeah.
Or it could have been Horseshoe Bay. Got to be one of those two, right?
Yeah, but that
Horseshoe Bay's a drive.
it's a drive. Barton Creek is good. They've got a Bob's Steakhouse there, among other restaurants. That's where I would go if I were wanting to get a little out of town
and looking to indict one of your colleagues.
Yeah, but that's ironic that could be one of the
nexus of their passing.
Yeah. Well, we're going to report on some real key things, and that is some of these documents have revealed his top fast food stops.
Yeah, lay it on me.
I thought that was good because we have talked about fast food, particularly in deceptive trade practices. Sure. Allegedly.
Dairy Queen,
not
Taco
enough
Bell.
meat in the taco, not enough ice cream in the Blizzard. Not enough
Whopper. I think the Whopper was not really a Whopper.
Not enough fire in the Fireball.
Okay, he likes, according to Hit the Records, Church's Chicken.
Got no complaints there.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Man, that's pretty lame.
So Yankee.
In a world of Shipley's, he's going to Dunkin'.
I mean, he's a traitor.
And that's true. And if you like some bread bowl with some broccoli cheese.
Panera, baby.
Trashy.
That's where business is conducted. Come on, y'all don't know that?
Panera bread?
Yeah.
One of those bread bowls filled with, you can get like 8,000 calories in one meal.
Carbs on carbs on carbs.
Yeah.
That's how I keep it thick.
Of those, I would take Church's Chicken, particularly the fried okra, I think is above average for okra.
Does Church, was it Church's or Hertz?
Hearts is one. Church's, I like Church's.
I love Church's Chicken. Is Hearts the one that does the buffet? Where you can go in at 3 o'clock and just eat all the chicken? I'm trying to get the image out of my head of Ken Paxton and his lady friend just pounding 17.
I don't think he was with her. And I actually want to know if anyone's did a study on the Uber trips and what percentage were to fast food joints and what percentage were to, rendezvous spots like her house, hotel.
Let me assure you,
to the extent they're not the same thing.
True.
We
could be in the bathroom.
We know the reps of
wings.
We know the reps of the House prosecutors, the members of the House, and then the hired lawyers. Don't think for a second that they haven't analyzed everything that you think they'll.
It's the only job they've. I don't want to say the only job they've had, but I will say this, in all seriousness. I listened to every second of the impeachment hearing.
Wow.
And it went on for about 4 hours, and I was touring the Dwight D. Eisenhower Presidential Museum, listening to it from the live legislature feed. Those folks came loaded for bear. They were... First of all, several of them are very seasoned attorneys. And the show that they put on, I hope no one ever does that to me. But my expectation is the prosecution show that they will put on will eviscerate him. And, I haven't made up my mind. Actually, I have. I've looked at it. He did it. But... those guys know what they're doing. They've done nothing but this at this point now for months, and I think it's going to be unfortunately quite dull because I think they're going to go on. They're going to put on their show, and no attorney in their right mind is going to put Paxton up for cross-examination.
Oh, you never know.
I know. If an attorney lets Paxton answer questions, it's malpractice.
Listen, sometimes it's not up to the attorney. The attorney will advise, as you know, do not go up on that stand. But sometimes people are so full of themselves, they'll just go up on the stand anyway.
I don't think that's Ken Paxton.
Well, he's facing serious criminal charges as well.
Yeah, and so wouldn't you think, though, if you're facing serious criminal charges and you're like, this is my last ditch effort, there could be something in him that's I want to get up on, and that's what I'm hoping for, is that he will get up on the stand.
Yeah, I think that's a pipe dream. I think Paxton's lawyers got to be telling him, let's not worry about this job. Let's worry about keeping you out of jail for the next 25 years. So let's just zip it, put on a brave face, and take our licks.
It's an interesting point because in addition to the stuff that's been going on that Kent Schaefer and Brian Weiss have been doing, they've been doing the securities thing. There's an ongoing investigation in Nate Paul, which is part of the same substance. So what if what if Paxton goes and says, look, I would love to tell my story, but I can't subject myself to criminal liability. It's one thing to lose your job, which is the remedy from impeachment. It's another thing to go to jail. So I would love to tell this, but I just can't. And so if the Senate then goes, that's their out, is they go, okay, well, we'll just impeach you because we're just going to look at it. Here's this evidence.
That's 100% what I think will happen.
Here's this evidence. It's unrefuted.
Yeah.
We don't have a choice.
And listen, if that happens, all Ken Paxton has to do, I'm sure he already has publishers reaching out to him for a book deal. So he's going to be financially fine.
Hard to use that money, though, when you're in jail.
Well, yeah.
He's got some pretty good attorneys.
There's pretty. So we had Kent Schaefer. He's the prosecutor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to have.
And Brian Weiss as well. Another excellent attorney.
Yeah.
We've had Tony on. I would love to have Dan Cogdell on, not just to talk about that case when it's over, and even if it's not over, to just put that aside. But his Waco story.
Yeah.
Have y'all watched that?
Yes.
That is fascinating.
And Dick DeGuerin also. He was. Dick DeGuerin was. Are you talking about David Koresh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dick DeGuerin for a short time was David Koresh's defense lawyer.
Dan Cogdell represented some affiliates in the case that was tried, and there's a 5-part. I think it's on Amazon right now. That's
Very
fascinating, and I was not aware of that until it came out. But I'd love to talk to Dan about that. Okay, let's change.
We talk about
topics.
Waco.
We
need to have a segment. We need like a lead in, Josh.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about Waco, Texas. We're
That's
talking about McLennan County, Waco, Texas.
Josh has a lot of ideas. Do you want to end with Waco or do you want to end with Buc-ee's? Happy?
Let's end with Waco.
Okay, so this is interesting. We're going to show the picture, or Josh is. He's going to post it. But it's been posted 8 million times.
El Buc-ee.
In a town called, I guess it's Matamoros, which it's not like some unknown town. There's a cinder block store called BUK-II''S Supermercado. It's white and it has a little logo that is a yellow circle with a beaver with a red hat on it. I wonder what they could be.
El Buc-ee.
Talking about. Well, obviously, a lot of people think it referring to very famous gas station. Gas station really doesn't do it justice because they must I don't know why they just don't put a refinery.
It's like brisket, capital, fudge, Buc-ee balls, crucifixion wall, jerky, all the A&M shirts you want,
Love
jerky,
crucifixion.
Buc-ee balls.
Candles.
Is that bedazzled?
If you look, I don't wear bedazzled jeans. If you need bedazzled jeans, I know where you can get some. And you could you can get bedazzled crosses. You can get bedazzled jeans. You can get bedazzled jeans with crosses, and you can get crosses with bedazzled jeans on them.
Yeah.
And in case anyone thinks you're mocking anyone,
I'm not. These are the facts.
I will say this. I'm in a book because I go back and forth between Houston and Austin usually every week. I'm in Buc-ee's each way.
Yeah.
So at least 2 times a week.
You're like, do I need some jerky? Do I need a Slurpee?
And the thing now is
Giant vat of Diet Coke.
Do I need a Coca-Cola bedazzled jean themed crucifixion?
We do.
It's gotten to a point though when you get gas, you almost have to park your car and you put the gas, and then you have to walk about a mile to the store at this point, which is why I think they should just build their own refinery right there.
Sure.
And just make everyone.
Did we cover the story about the Buc-ee's in Alabama that got prosecuted because there's a law in Alabama that says you can't sell gas less than the wholesale cost of the gas?
No, I mean, I stopped there a month ago.
So a lot of these Buc-ee's in Texas actually,
It's in Auburn. It's in Auburn, Alabama.
so the gas prices at a lot of these Buc-ee's in Texas is below the market cost of gas. That's their advertising to get you in. They make all the money on the Buc-ee balls and the fudge and the jerky.
So worth it.
And the independent rural gas station owners of Alabama sued the Buc-ee's in Alabama saying you're violating state law by selling costs for less than its actual value. Stunning.
So the financial tip is to have willpower, not go into Buc-ee's, just get gas there.
100%.
That's
To the
not
extent
that's
to
not
the
possible.
extent-
It's not possible, right?
I mean, it's never happened in human history.
I mean, you have to go to the bathroom.
You
At
have to go to the
least.
bathroom, and then you're going to walk by, and you're going to be like, "Do I need peanut butter fudge with raspberries in it?" I don't know. I've never had that. It could be awesome.
I mean, you never know. Or the Yetis or the coolers. It's just, I
Everything.
love Buc-ee's.
Well, so we had this whole detour. Buc-ee's is considering filing
Okay.
lawsuit against these people, and so you file it in Mexico. There's, in trademark law, you have to actively patrol your
Trademark.
trademark, trade secret, all that. So do they have to, if it's happening in Mexico, or is it like, could they get in, because they've been active on suing other people that are trying to glom off this excellent brand they have.
What would you do, Peter? Because you were on like the U of H law, like committee for Mexican American something, right?
I was, but I don't,
You didn't pay attention.
I mean,
Left.
they're those, that stuff. I mean, they were so higher above my head on what they were talking about. I would think more about whether U.S. trademark law, like if they would get hurt, because maybe they don't, I don't know, maybe they're trying to go international, but if they would be hurt in the U.S.,
Do you think the bedazzled jean crucifixion market?
It would do really well in Mexico.
Yeah, I bet it would do amazing in Mexico.
There would be some Mary, like Mother Mary.
The Virgen de Guadalupe Hidalgo,
We see.
bedazzled jeans. I don't know. I mean, I think the point is well taken, though, is that you got to protect your trademark. But this is a cinder block hut that is smaller than our conference room. I guess you got to sue him to prove the point, or maybe you just call him and say, please make it something slightly different, like "El be there," or what's the Spanish word for
No, that's a good one. And yeah,
beaver? Thank you. That's our technical.
regulations are written in beaver nuggets.
Yeah.
well, we'll see. That's interesting, and I brought it up only because a lot of people posted about it. And again, it may be one of those things, and this is kind of one of the general themes of this show, is people see stuff and their gut is, that's BS.
That's crazy.
Stupid. Why is that a lawsuit? But then if you dig down a little bit, which is our mission, and you go, well, maybe there's actually a good reason for them to do that.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to see. Now, they haven't done anything yet. They just said,
Question is, sometimes I've seen this happen where large institutions, and I know the University of Texas has done this, where they will bring a suit against someone who's infringing upon their copyright or their trademark.
sure.
And then they will enter into some really completely easy to comply with settlement, and that counts as
Exactly.
enforcement. There's been a lot of schools that have adopted, and Notre Dame's done the same thing. Notre Dame has sued high schools that use the ND or the Shamrock.
Mm-hmm.
The University of Texas has sued municipalities, Fort Worth, and high schools that have used the Longhorn. And usually they'll file the suit, they will answer, and they will be like, okay, you can use the Longhorns, but it's got to be you have to put a different colored ring in its nose, or it's got to have different colored.
Well, you take a license agreement, so you acknowledge the trademark.
You acknowledge the enforcement, and then you move on down the road.
Right. I think that happens a lot.
Yeah.
But it's,
Maybe at least something like that for El Buc-ee's. What city is it in? Zihuatanejo?
I thought we said
And Matamoros.
Matamoros, yeah. Okay, I'm about to.
Can we talk about a road trip?
Oh, well, that would be great. I mean, I don't. Maybe it would be great.
Can we trust Bill in Matamoros?
Well, it's
I
about
just
the
don't know if
bathrooms.
does my life insurance cover me? Because I still have 4 children and a wife that need to be.
Well, let me ask you this. Are you talking about a traumatic injury that you suffer across the border? Or are you talking about contracting an illness that makes its way back across the border with you? Because it might be different.
I don't mean to besmirch Matamoros, but I thought right now maybe it wasn't best time to go there.
You're worried about your head might end up in a duffel bag?
Perhaps.
I mean, they'd see Peter and
But the thing that you don't remember, Peter, is that we have our media consultant who probably knows people in Matamoros.
Oh, true.
Probably smooth the path for us.
Okay,
know
so I
someone
think
everywhere.
we covered that one pretty good. So do we want to close tonight with Waco? All right. As a
Bring on Waco.
Friday, August 18th, let me just stop. So I went, what night was that? Was that Friday night? I went Friday night to Dallas with some friends, and I went to Metallica.
Yes.
Which, Metallica's fine. I went just because they're, band we were growing up, and
Master Puppets.
yeah, we went with some friends that invited us, and it was great. And then I went a completely different route on the way home, and my goal was to stop at the whole Magnolia complex. And I thought,
In Waco.
a couple cute, because we were driving back. We drove from Houston to Dallas, and then we went back. We're going back to Austin.
You were looking for some cute stores.
Just like, let me check this out. I want to look at this alleged dangerous,
The silos.
the dangerous paper towel dispenser that injures people.
Did it explode in your face?
Well, I didn't get that far
You'd be
because
shocked the amount of things that
this was
explode in your
10
face.
o'clock in the morning on Saturday. It was like Disney World. I mean, there was people everywhere. There was no parking, and it was super nice. It was really pretty, and there's like a chapel and all kind. I would love to go like during the week when it's not so crowded. Just check it out.
You're talking about the silos?
The silos and everything. It's a whole complex.
So like there's the silos, and then there's like little shops like Round Top.
There's like 4 blocks.
Maybe we could make a weekend of it. You and me and Bill. Maybe Amanda wants to come. We could go to Antiquing in Fredericksburg. And then we go to Round Top. And then we could go to the silos.
Yeah, I'll say this. I cannot give it justice when you have to go. You just have to go to see it. It is nice, and everyone seems kind of happy. It's like a tourist deal. I mean,
We could see it on YouTube, I bet. I bet we don't have to go.
I think you have to see it with your own eyes.
So can I ask you, are the silos open? Like, are the tops open? Do you know?
I didn't put a drone on top.
Well, that's what I was going to say is like a couple of weeks ago, y'all were talking about the silos. Why is this such a big tourist attraction? A lot of people like to do photography within the silos. They drop their drones in there.
No, the silos that's a minor part. It's a minor part of a multi-block whole program.
Antiquing nightmare.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
I hope how tall are the silos?
About 4 or 5 stories. I mean, they're pretty big.
Would I be more likely to commit ritual suicide by walking into a jet engine in San Antonio or just dropping off the top of the silo here in Waco?
This is inappropriate.
Yeah, I don't know. I refuse to answer that question.
Yeah.
Depends on.
We're offended.
Yeah. But I'm just telling you.
Sounds amazing.
I'm gonna back Waco. Not only that, we drove around just to kind of get it.
Oh yeah. Once you're there,
because usually I just go to the stadium and then I leave. But we drove around. I was like, you know what? I think Waco there may be something here. Sorry, don't shoot me, Kyle. He's shooting daggers at me right now. But check it out. There's a Texas Plays.
It's trying real hard not to tell you to go straight to hell.
I won't. Because I'll be at Waco.
You know who said the same thing about what you just said?
What?
David Corinne.
Yeah. Yes.
I was like, this place is like paradise.
He was outside Waco. This
place is like paradise.
I'm telling you, it may be.
Maybe him and Star know what's going on.
I mean, it's not like I'm on anything. I think Chip and Joanna Gaines were about 12 years ahead of me on that. But
no, we're going to give you credit, Peter.
Okay, this was Friday at 5 o'clock, right before
news.
I rolled it.
Did live updates from Waco.
A judge has declared a mistrial in the murder for hire trial of Waco attorney Seth Sutton after jurors deliberated for 12 hours without reaching a unanimous verdict. Okay, first of all, I thought y'all just told me that 12 was short.
Yeah, that's not long enough. Why did the judge declare a mistrial? I mean,
Friday,
well, that's true. That's true, and also possibly the jurors were requesting a lot more information multiple times, and they were like, we can't come to any kind of. Maybe they were coming to blows in the jury room.
Well, reports, court officials said at one point during deliberations, the jury was deadlocked 9-3 in favor of guilt. But in any event, those 3, I guess, hung tight. Sorry, when I read and talk at the same time, it's not good. I'm trying to get the bottom of it. So the allegation was that the defendant was in a bike club, motorcycle club called the Red Mouse Cult. And
the RMC.
he says that Sutton, the defendant, asked him to help kill fellow Waco attorney Marcus Boudin. And Bowden is under indictment on charges he molested a young female member of Sutton's family, the defendant, when she was 14. So Sutton and
some biker buddy,
the alleged,
was an undercover cop.
Yeah, but the idea was that Sutton, the defendant in this case, and the alleged child molester Bowden, his ex-wife, plotted together to kill Bowden. Waco's crazy.
Say what you want about Waco. They are living life to the full.
Okay, here's the thing.
Like, these things, they would never happen in my life.
The alleged child molester lawyer guy that he was alleged to try to kill, his wife that was in on it, she was a co-defendant. She's not anymore because she was also an attorney, but she was killed in a motorcycle accident in Hayes County.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to go, why are you not on it right now getting a dateline?
I know, right? That's a good point.
You're late to the party.
I stick to Houston. I want to go to Waco.
A dirty bird does not have enough of motorcycles.
We have enough attorneys, though.
Yeah, we got plenty of attorneys. I'm just saying we're not involved in any sort of murder for hire plots. We're absolutely not riding any motorcycles. Peter drives a Cadillac.
I know a lot of attorneys with motorcycles, and there is an alarming lack of motorcycles in this group.
Yeah, no. Kent Schaefer said he owned one for like a day.
He did.
Realized that wasn't his deal.
Yeah,
we know he's the head of a motorcycle gang, but
but Banditos.
Yeah, but he doesn't own a motorcycle.
The putative head of the Banditos. What did he say?
He said he owned one.
He said, Kyle, if there's any chance a 73-year-old Jewish man is the putative kingpin of the Banditos, would I show you the Banditos handshake or something like that? Anyways.
I mean, that's just badass.
He's absolutely the head of the band. Like, you didn't get the facial expressions as he was saying that. He was being sarcastic. He's clearly the head of the Banditos.
Yeah.
I don't.
What was this kid? The Red Mouse Club? The Red Mouse Gang?
Yeah.
That sounds like a very tough motorcycle.
You say that now, and then 5 or 6 of these people show up at your front door, and you're like, I talked to Joanna Gaines, and she said that was cool. Don't shiv me, brah.
Well, several have died, and several have been alleged to have killed other people, so it could be a little rough. Now, I read from other stories that the allegation was that the officer that was in the gang was in the the motorcycle club, got a little over the top on
it was like
trying to get the guy.
What do you think? Should we kill this guy?
Yeah, like really got him worked up and like, hey, wouldn't that be a great idea if you killed the guy? And so it was a little sketchy on that, but that
seems like a decent defense, Phil.
I'd be like, I don't know, that seems weird, dude. That's not killing anybody.
I think maybe he was told, like he was pulled off the case, but he stayed on it.
Yeah, so that is something interesting that I read, was that apparently he had been on the case for a while, and then he was pulled off of it, and then he was told not to bother this guy anymore.
Yeah.
But he stuck with it, and then the Waco cops, being the awesome people that they are, were like, yeah, just go for it. Let's see what happens.
Well, if the court officials are right, they were 9-3. I mean, which is interesting because, I mean, you could see a lot of people going, well, maybe you did conspire to kill this guy, but that's actually okay considering what he's been charged.
What the person did.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, if this is not a Dateline deal, then there is no Dateline.
I'll get on it.
Dateline, and if the tagline could be Sick 'em Bears or something like that, might be kind of cool.
Or how about red mice are tougher than bears? That's not that bad.
Whatever it is, I'm telling you, Dateline is even going, no, this is we can't process what's happening.
Dateline,
there's
thinking,
too much.
If I wrote the script, my producers would say, this is so fake that it's over the top. And then you'd be like, have you ever been to Waco? Have you been to the silos? Have you stared? This is the thing I want to say to you, Peter, and anybody in Waco. When you're there at the top of the silos and you stare out into the abyss,
You can see the awesome.
sometimes the abyss stares back into you.
It's true.
And Fiend, I think we're out on that.
I do have to say, I think the greatest opening scene for that Dateline episode would be Peter at the cute little shops, just walking through, like it's quiet and there's like wildflowers like waving in the breeze. There's cute little shops in the background.
Okay, when your friend the producer does it, I'm game. I'm in. Diane,
Got it.
I'd probably want Diane to come with me.
Yeah, of course.
It's on the up and up. All right. Well, that concludes a very robust and substantive discussion.
Might be the best show we've ever had.
We missed Bill.
Sorry, Bill.
Yeah, sorry,
This
Bill.
might be the best show we've ever had.
We'll let Bill listen to this and bookmark some things that he wants to recover, except I'm going to probably not allow, there's one topic that we're going to keep off limits to keep our non-expletive rating on this show.
Did I use any expletives?
No.
But there's some subject matter that are not intended for younger.
Red mice.
It's not me. It's the United States Senate.
Yeah. So with that, we're going to conclude. Thank you, Amanda, our special guest. And again, Amanda or strategygroup.com.
Yeah, thanks, y'all. This is
All right. Give her a shout if y'all need some public relations or suppression of bad story consulting. Kyle, thank you very much.
Peter, thank you.
All right. We'll see y'all next week.
Thanks for joining us this week. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also visit our website at www.dirtyverdict.com. If you are interested in coming on as a guest or have a story idea, please email us at story@dirtyverdict.com.